Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter where we review every single Palme d'Or in random order. And today, our great and holy wheel of spinning gave us the 1961 film by director Luis Buñuel. That would be Viridiana, out of Mexico, if I am correct. Right, Tanner?
No, it was back in Spain. For
Oh,
this
it's
one. He was in Mexico
Spain.
for a while. This is like his return.
Return to Spain.
Well,
La España.
No,
It's
guys,
Mexico?
You're both wrong.
What?
It's an Italian film.
Oh, well that explains.
We'll get into the ins and outs
What
of
are you doing, Louis?
this film's relationship to Spain and various other countries.
Yes, but
in due time.
But I am excited to talk about this film with you guys today. Buñuel, a storied, famous director, so good to have him on the show right beside us, right in kind of in the center of our spirit as we talk about his film. Real quick, last time we had the Belle Auguste film. I fact-checked you, Tanner. You were going on about how his name is spelled. There is no second I on IMDb. It is Bille. Belle Auguste, Pele the Conqueror was the name of the film. Got a 7.9, and we debated some ties, and it ended up at spot number 23 on the list. So I recommend you go check out that review to see what we thought.
Myself. I'm sorry. I tried to correct you, didn't say it was Italy, and that's what I have in my spreadsheet, but no, it is Spain. I just had to double check again. It's I don't know why I wrote down Italy, but it's definitely Spain.
I know it's Spain because I watched the 2-minute long video on the Criterion Channel interview between Guillermo del Toro and Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame.
What?
Which I don't know. But it was like
crossover of the century right there.
Yeah, he was like hosting some interviews with
What the fuck did Adam Savage know about 60s European cinema?
That's why he was asking Guillermo del Toro, Tanner.
He learned.
He's learning.
Oh, yes. Well, we know that Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman were special effects movie guys before they got into the TV business. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Abram, let's hit a comment real quick if we've got one, and then roll right into the review. I did my due diligence. I got that review up solid 2.5 hours before we're recording this. So
wow.
Woohoo!
We are not going to Pele, though. We're going back to Rosetta here because our good friend at Abby Keg is back. Abby is back with another great comment here and a very intriguing one. Abby writes, I am one of 6 people who has seen both The Ballad of Narayama and Rosetta, and I choose Rosetta. Bear in mind, if you're not watching week to week, this was a point of contention at tie.
Yes.
It was.
I do like how the Dardennes are not afraid to make unlikable child protagonists. The Boy with the Bike is a very big favorite of mine. Very great, very sad and devastating. I do think part of Rosetta's mindset is wanting to do things the quote-unquote right way, which is touched on, and also not wanting to owe anyone anything unless she absolutely has to. Well, I do think it's partially because of pride and shame. I think it's also her knowing to some extent that it'll make things harder for her down the road if she does steal and if she does owe people something. In her mind, the only person she can really trust without a doubt is herself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Tucker?
Yes, Tucker has a comment that he wants to read as well.
Okay,
This comes from the BLB Archive channel.
Hang on. Let's thank Abby first for her very insightful comments. Before we move on too quickly.
And
we talked about that movie.
The Boy with the Bike. I'm gonna check this one out because I've liked both of the Dardennes movies we've watched now, and I'm not familiar with this one. So
and Abby did get her wish. Rosetta did end up above the Ballad of Narayama on our list.
But Pele the Conqueror is sandwiched right between those two movies. So to tie it all together, Tucker from the archives, who's trolling our old videos?
Gee, I wonder what this might be.
This comes from Crypto Fan 8099 on our Ordinary People review, and it says, hate the commentary of Tucker.
Crypto Fan, you and me both.
nice and concise comment there.
Nice and concise. That's right. You know.
Yep.
We like our long-winded, thoughtful comments, but if you can just punch right to the point that you're trying to make, we appreciate that too.
And if you punch at me, we appreciate it even more. There was also a comment from Jack's Soul at 8 on our Going My Way review that says, no one should expect 20-somethings to have a sense of the times and circumstances under which the movie was made. Their attention span is no farther than themselves, and they don't have real life, real-world lived experience, which would make them reflective and be able to identify with the character.
So riddle me this now.
I want to put this out there.
Like what year? Okay, go. I also have a bone to pick with this commenter too.
I'm going to extend an olive branch to the commenter.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's fair to say that I have no life experience. I don't really care. I think you're probably right. You're
Probably.
probably 65. You know a lot more about the world than I do. That's fine. I just think the movie is stupid. It doesn't. The two things can coexist. I can have no perspective on life and think the movie is boring.
And
I think that's the nuance that the commenters always miss when they leave these comments.
Here's the nuance I think that they miss, and I'll keep this concise. What was this person's name, Tucker?
Jack's Soul 8.
Jack Soul 8. I know more than you. Let's move on.
What?
As much as you like to think that you know about things, that you know about movies, I know more than you.
Hannah's got more in that department. Let's move on. I'll just throw my hat in that. One of these days, we will have all that life experience because we'll have done this for decades, and it'll all be right there in the open. And those commenters will still be,
and they'll eat their fucking words.
They'll still
They'll all
hollering at
see.
us.
We're planning actually sometime around 2068 or so when we're all retired. We're gonna redo Quest.
Right.
Be
Yes.
like older and wiser and bester.
And we're going to do it one a day.
Oh yeah, that's because we won't have anything
we
to
won't have
do.
anything else to do.
We're stuck in the fucking home. What else is there to do?
That's true.
Exactly. And that's when we'll finally have an appreciation for all these movies that suck because we'll have bad taste because we're
suddenly.
old.
It really sucks. It sucks how much more we've given this in Abby's comment that is actually useful
I
and
know.
interesting.
Abby, I know you're watching, and we're sorry about that.
We like to joke. Let's be serious here. Talk about the movie. Tanner, will you give us a little plot synopsis of Viridiana?
Yes, Viridiana is about a young woman named Viridiana, and she is studying to be a nun in a convent, and her mother superior comes to her at the very beginning of the film and says, hey, guess what? Your uncle, Don, are we going to call him Jamie, or it's probably Jaime?
Probably Jaime.
Don Jaime. He is sick. He is going to die soon, and you should go see him. Viridiana's not crazy about the idea, but he also bankrolled her way into this convent and her education and everything like that. So she gives in. She goes to check in on him, and Don Jaime's got some stuff going on. He retells to her that his wife died on their wedding day, and Viridiana bears a striking resemblance to her, and so he wants Viridiana to marry him, or at least be in some sort of partnership or relationship with him, which extends to him drugging her, assaulting her, and then, after some turns of events, killing himself. And then we kind of shift into phase 2 of the movie, wherein Viridiana has sort of inherited Don Jaime's land, and she is in a sort of battle of... She has... Well, also Don Jorge is there, who is Don Jaime's, sort of bastard son, long-lost son a little bit, and it's unclear, how much control he has over the manor and the land versus how much she has. He has moved in with his girlfriend, and she has basically moved in with a bunch of homeless people who she is trying to give a second chance, trying to give some home, some food, some work, things like that. And that's kind of where the second phase of the film shifts into, and then things spiral out of control from there, I would say.
Yeah, in classic Buñuel fashion too, if I might add.
Yeah, certainly.
Tucker, you get to go first this time. What did you think of the film?
I think it's okay. I think the performances are good. I think it looks great. I think there are some decently interesting sequences. But as I was watching it, and the movie I think gets more interesting to me as it goes. But watching how it climaxes and ends, I was thinking to myself, what connected to me about this movie, and what was intended to connect with this movie? What is the authorial intent behind creating a movie like this? And it really is, I think, to create something that is biting against the pious culture of Spain of the time. Something that that Buñuel was very familiar with, something that was probably shackling creative expression at the time. As Tanner will get into with his facts, this movie was very controversial at the time, and so these moments of parallels of religious imagery and burning of the crown of thorns and the Last Supper and all these things. I'm like, okay, these are some interesting moments, and I believe that they are more deeply infused with the breadth of the movie, and characters probably act like people did in the Bible, and you could draw parallels or something. But as someone who is I'm not religious at all, and I'm not particularly deeply familiar with Spanish culture, with Catholicism. These things are not they're not my lived experience day in and day out. And also, I live in a non-pious society. It felt like I really got nothing out of it. It's one where I watch it and I feel the interesting artistic intent, and I can respect it. I can see how it would be very interesting and controversial and have a lot of energy for a time and a place that I do not live in and cannot share in that experience. And so I watch it and I see that intent, but it totally misses me by. And so what I'm left with is a group of characters that I think are fine, but not particularly excellent. I think the performances are good with what they're given, but I don't really feel like I know too much about Viridiana. She feels kind of one note to me. Even Don Jaime, who I think is my favorite performance in the movie, maybe. He's an interesting character, but we lose him so early on, and I'm very conflicted on this movie because I can see why someone would love it if they were really maybe interested in the culture of Spain at the time, or maybe they grew up Catholic and this kind of imagery and like the restrictive nature of religion might be something that's like on their mind. But as someone who is not a part of that and doesn't share that life experience, a lot of its intent and its themes I think really don't hit home for me.
I'm gonna hop in here because I never let myself go second. Because I also find myself strangely agreeing with Tucker. I think I come out a little more positive as a whole on this thing. Strange, I know, to agree with Tucker.
I know.
But I find there's like kind of two opposing forces for me in this film. And this is a very watchable movie. I think there's just our moment to moment drama and like you say, acting and staging and lighting and all this, like just like watching the film is very easy. It's very watchable and there's lots going on the surface. But then my problem gets to be that not only it's a Buñuel film, so we've got it's wide and it's deep. The different themes that are being presented here are myriad. There's class ideas, there's social justice ideas. Of course, there's all this stuff about religion. And like Tucker, my knowledge of that is just lacking. And so I'm unable to really pull together like, oh, this character is in reference to X character out of the Bible. It's like when all the paupers make when they end up making, what is it, Michelangelo's The Last Supper? I was like, okay, yes, or Da Vinci, yeah. I'm like, I get this quote from art history, but I'm a little bit lost on like connecting all these bits together. So I enjoy the characters. I enjoy watching the film. I think it does have something pretty radical and pretty positive to say, despite it being like kind of a downer of a film, sort of, even though it's light in its like appearance. And so I'm wanting to figure out how these things connect together in this film, because I picked up on some of the smaller elements, but my goal here is to stitch the tissue together and make a more complete picture of what this movie really is. Abram, you can go next. I don't know. I'm picking randomly between you two.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this one. I've not seen a Buñuel film before. So this is my first. So I didn't really have any expectation. I think above everything, I kind of struggle to reconcile these kind of two discrete parts of the film, as Tanner was talking about. And I find myself wanting to Tucker's point, wanting to understand Viridiana a little bit better. And I just found the whole thing sort of broadly inaccessible for as Timo was saying, as easy it is to watch. I just really didn't get much out of it. And I found myself kind of looking for connections between these two parts of the film that I couldn't really find. And I just didn't really have a way into this one. I don't really have anything particularly profound to say about it right now.
Tanner, what's your stance here?
I feel like I'll probably come out of this one being like the most positive on it from the sounds of it, because I do think this has some quite interesting imagery, especially that is Buñuel's kind of bread and butter is this deeply held thematic surrealist imagery. It's certainly not my favorite of the films of his that I've watched, and he's always kind of been one of the classic directors that I've had an academic appreciation for, but you know, his films don't necessarily like ring in my mind as like I like really deeply feel involved in what this film is saying, even if I understand what it is doing. And the same goes for Viridiana. I think it has some distinct high points in it that I want to hit and talk about because I think Buñuel is celebrated for a definite reason for his ability to craft certain images and weave the story into interesting ways that feel biting and satirical and things of that nature. Certainly, the aims that he meant to have and his targets are quite clear with Viridiana, as Tucker has already sort of laid out. On the whole, though, like sort of falls in the middle of the pack, alongside some other Palme d'Or winners that we have watched. Where I'm like, from a film appreciation standpoint, I like a lot of what it is doing, but it's not going to stick with me especially well, I don't feel. But we can get into some deeper points and some specifics as we dive in here.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, well, I'll just say that with the other Buñuels that I've seen, the Exterminating Angel is one that I think of. This film is less strange. It has some strange elements, but it is much more grounded in reality.
Certainly.
Than
I mean, we have like a character who is meant to be relatable on some level, a protagonist certainly who is supposed to be likable. To a fault, I would say. That's kind of like the point of this character is that Viridiana as a character is idealistic to a fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I'm maybe getting ahead of ourselves. Tucker, we have to throw it to you.
We do got to give it to our question master. You want to talk about the surrealism or lack thereof, or something else?
I do. I'm glad that you said that because that's the exact place that I was going to go. As someone who is actually, it's been a very long time since I've seen a Buñuel movie. It's probably been 4 or so years.
I think I've only seen 3.
I just checked. I've now seen 8.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, I've actually seen quite a bit.
Let me do an LB check here real quick. How many do I have?
All right. But
Louis Buñuel.
One thing that I've always found interesting about Buñuel is that with he wears his thematics much more openly on his sleeve, and parallels them with incredibly striking imagery that make movies like L'Âge d'Or and The Exterminating Angel and Obscure Object of Desire, these things that are like confusing and comedic and anarchic and like all these like crazy things that no one else is bold enough to do in this time. And it makes him a director that, especially for something like L'Âge d'Or, Un Chien Andalou, like these are films that are like, you're like, what's wrong with this guy? Like it's but for me, he's the kind of director that is really hard to parse if you don't put yourself in his mindset, because sometimes it just feels like he's being like incredibly random, but there's a lot of intent and a lot of there's a lot of imagery from these movies that really stick with me, and some sequences that I can't quite piece together, but because they're so odd, they really jumped out at me. And so that's the mindset that I went into after years of not watching, having seen many Buñuel movies, having not seen any for a long time. I went into this movie, and then I was like, this is pretty normal. Like
to a guy like me, this seems pretty normal.
And I do think that it is because this movie is subversive to his filmography in that it's got the themes of class, and it's got the themes of religion, it's got the themes of anarchy and all these things that bleed through a lot of his other films, but it is intentionally subdued in those elements to kind of appeal to censors a little bit, but still have the things around the edges that are like kind of fighting back against that. It's got this weird middle ground that I think is conceptually interesting in terms of where it lands in his filmography and the way that it, of course, then was received, being banned in some countries and things like that, and then being denounced by Catholicism. But what it leads to is like, I get the historical, I get the reason why he's doing this, I get how it's interesting in the context of his filmography, but it just means it's less interesting than his other movies. I'm like, it ultimately, if I didn't know that he was the one doing it, I don't know how much I would feel a strong, distinct creative direction here. It's a drama about someone who's very religious, and then the ways that plays in society. And so, for me, and I guess past to Timo and Tanner, and the experience that you have with Buñuel and the maybe preconceived notions you had going into this, I think, disappointed by it, expecting this to be a little bit more surreal, a little bit more insane, a little bit more biting. There are shots that I think are interesting, but on the whole, really the only like very Buñuel scene to me is the whole dinner scene.
Yeah,
at
the end of the
everyone going crazy and fighting and wrestling on the floor and just throwing feathers everywhere. I'm like,
Tucker,
that
they weren't
feels like
they were doing a little more than wrestling on the floor.
they were, yeah, what is it, scuffling, I think.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think I was
Mhm.
part of the reason I was disappointed is like I think I expected a little bit more
Okay.
Buñuel insanity.
Yeah. Now here's where my like modern sensibilities come into conflict with understanding and reading this movie. I don't get what made the Catholic Church hate this so much. Like I don't see the content, the text of this movie that is so objectionable.
Because you're so removed from it. You're like,
well, like, yeah, I'm A, removed from the
It
religion,
feels
and B,
relatively tame.
removed,
That's kind of the
removed
point I
from
was
the
making
time
earlier.
period. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels tame in a way that is like, that the
it's like how It Happened One Night is like scandalous or whatever.
yes,
You're like,
yeah, and it's like
Well, yeah, 'cause
I
you
like
see-
it's so quaint.
you
in
watch
that
like a
one.
50s B horror movie and they're like, people are freaking out and you're like,
That's pretty, that's a guy in a rubber suit, But and so this one is just like, well, we have some weird attractions. We have the poppers who are pretty loose with relationships. What is it in the movie that they're like picking at that they're like, can't be in? That's kind of my first stumbling block for like getting part of this. I don't know, unboxing the puzzle here.
Well, I think, I mean, it's an easy thing to glom onto, but I certainly some of the first things that come to mind are some of these images that only really crop up at the end, like the burning thorn of crowns, for
Yeah.
example.
This is another part that I
the-
don't quite get of this movie.
Sure, the parodic sort of recreation of the Last Supper painting. There is at one point there's like a crucifix that's kind of like a knife-looking thing.
Oh, the
And
knife.
I think just
yeah.
I think just generally the story is about Viridiana as a pious, sensible, idealistic young woman who has
Really
all of those like
screws it up.
inclinations like trampled on basically and ruined by the harsh realities of the world.
Mhm.
So
the movie's
yeah.
just basically like, kind of everyone sucks actually. So like, don't even bother being good.
It does feel to me that there is an element of no good deed goes unpunished with the this kind of ending of the film.
Definitely.
But that's
The
like
ending
Say that
feels
again?
especially like
I guess it kind of that goes ahead for the beginning too, because if you think about what's our good deed in each section, we got two different good deeds from Viridiana's point of view, and her first good deed is to go to be with her uncle. She doesn't want to do it, but she does it anyway. And then how is she punished by that? Well, she's punished by having him come onto her and try to marry her, and then have this like psychological torment to kill it. The reason for him killing himself is very plain and obvious. It's to get back at her. I think not necessarily. He has this like I think this is a moment. I don't know. Just to dive in super close here about the performance, but like the way that what's his name, Fernando Rey, who's the actor for Don Jaime, has this like really evil twisted smile when she's like, no, I'm gonna leave. And then he like he looks to the window, and then the camera goes up to his face, and you're like, yeah, this is a man with a plan, and it's a dastardly plan.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, to that end, what else might be blasphemous about this film
It was
is
a suicide.
the suicide, of course, but also like Viridiana is a nun or nun to be, essentially, and she is constantly the object of sexual desire of multiple male characters in this film. So I mean, there's that as well.
Yeah, but the thing about that though, and why I think I find it hard to find this movie like super biting, is that it doesn't present any of these like particularly anti-Catholic things as like good. Like these are people that are doing bad things, and rape is a bad thing. That coming on to her is a bad thing, and so it's like yes, that like I don't that shouldn't happen to people, and that's like those are sins in the eyes of someone who's religious. But this movie's not like you should do those things. It's like no, these are shitty people. Even
Tucker,
in the text of the film.
I think the 1960s Catholic Church may have the very same mindset about these things as teenagers on TikTok nowadays, which is depiction equals
Endorsement.
endorsements.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. As games journalists talking about horses on Twitter.
That's
right
too
now.
specific.
That's
Here- here's something I'm thinking about, right? Because I think you guys are like helping me get a little closer to the film. We
Okay.
kind of see two big institutions fail and then both sexually assault Viridiana. One
Yes.
is the family and one is the community. The
Mhm.
two institutions she's trying to serve, both of which result in in extreme trauma for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting to create this character who is working so desperately to sort of do what's asked of her by her faith and by her values, and at every turn result in deep, like deeply changing personal trauma and injury that she has to suffer. And I think that there is something to me that remains quite cynical and in some ways kind of haunting about this plain reality that Viridiana exists in this context where any of her pious actions are simply not only ineffective
They're like
but
worthless. Yeah.
they're not but they're not only worthless, they're to her personal physical, it's a
Yeah.
detriment of personal, physical, sexual, intellectual, mental safety. I think that actually there's probably a weaker version of this movie that is more overt in kind of rubbing the church's nose in its subversion of imagery. I think there's something about how there's almost this just accepted barbarity and lack of interest in Viridiana's pursuits that makes it harder to watch. I think more demoralizing as a viewer, right? If we sometimes in this show, and we do this more with like war film, but we sort of
Mhm.
think about what's how does the film function as a motivating agent on its viewer. And a lot of wartime cinema, World War II cinema, we talk about is sort of trying to engage some sort of nationalistic spirit, some sort of rallying behind a war cause. If you accept that type of cinema can do it, any type of cinema can do it. And
Mhm.
this is functioning to sort of put the kibosh in any interest a viewer might have in participating in the church to help family, to help community. And so I actually don't find it particularly hard to see why this would have been seen as such a transgressive film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Certainly. No, it's also just worth noting that Buñuel, in the 6 films of his that I've seen now, after doing a little LB and team, I have to shout out the Letterboxd or Louis Buñuel joke that you made earlier. That he is a provocateur above all else. Like, he is not out here doing like real class like dissection stuff, at least in the films that I have seen. It is more so that he's taking the piss out of the wealthy, out of the ruling class, out of
Yes.
the powers that be, and he's not really interested in doing like I don't know, like a Parasite kind of thing where maybe maybe Parasite might be a poor example, but like where the impoverished characters are a little bit easier to root for than the wealthy characters or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He is really just there to be like to poke at and to take the wind out of the sails of the wealthy or the church or anything like that, really.
And since we've kind of outlined specifically what the note that he's skewering the church is, at least on the piety and its uselessness, I think what he's trying to say with the rich people is that, like, try as they might, their efforts to bring up lower classes to help people are ineffective and don't do anything to help them out and perpetuate the same group infighting and stereotypes and illnesses and that I don't think he goes to create the proscriptive what to do about that, but I think he's bringing the idea that there is something to do about that in with Jorge being much more interested in the land. He's like, we got to get this land to be useful. It's laying fallow. We got to grow stuff on it. He's about this kind of productivity, which I don't think Buñuel argues is a good or a bad thing. It's just one thing that's happening around.
Because his character, Jorge, is like I like he doesn't ever really end up doing anything crazy. Like I think the movie felt to me like it was setting up that this was something about men in power, and that he would eventually, there's some little bit of teasing of like the way that he's going to engage with Viridiana, has an interest in her, that is end up like doesn't exactly happen. He protects her at the end. He's an interesting character because I'm not exactly sure what he represents in the movie.
So I've been told many times by a friend of the show, Steven, to watch The Exterminating Angel. Basically, anytime we watch a why am I blanking on his name? Triangle Sadness.
Oh, an Ostland.
Ostland.
Anytime we watch a Ostland, I'm told to watch that movie.
Yeah.
And an issue that I have a lot of.
Raise your hand if you love that movie.
Which one? The Exterminating Angel? Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
An issue I often take with Ostland's films, the two that we've reviewed for the show, is that they are observational and are sort of otherwise inert in what they're trying to get across. And I think an issue that I'm trying to work through with this film is that if we look at the character of Jorge, right, there's two particular moments that stick out in my mind, building on what Tucker just said. One is that, Timo, to your point about the film trying to expose this idea that the sort of well-to-do people helping individuals who are disadvantaged is ineffective. That's literally in the text of the film when Jorge at one point says this to Viridiana. What you're doing for these few does nothing for the thousands and thousands of other homeless people.
Does he also offer
to
get them to work on the fields? Is he trying to be a little bit of a job creator? No, he's not.
He says that they're too. He says something to the effect like it's too far gone. He's like at a different point in their life. Maybe
helping a few beggars does nothing for the thousands of others is the line
Look
that I
at this
wrote
guy.
down.
But then I think about that, and then I think about the moment at the end of the film when Viridiana is being assaulted for the second time, and Jorge is pleading. I forget the guy's name, but the other
the leper. He is kind of his
Mm-hmm.
He's pleading, kill the guy who is assaulting Viridiana, and I will pay you. And he does. And it's the wealth motivates him to do what is in that case the very moral and righteous thing, which is defend this woman who's about to get raped.
Of which he was about to participate too, and the money changed his mind.
Yes, and that is important. And the reason I invoked Ostland's work is because I have a similar issue here with I'm unsure if there is much to glean beyond the skewering of everybody. Because the film seems to very much support Jorge's view, or at minimum, if you take a pragmatic view to the text, he's right. Those people shouldn't be in the house. So the money solved the problem.
I think there are some complications to this. I think there are some complications surrounding this sort of mindset that Jorge has, because before he has this line directed towards Viridiana that is very nihilistic and defeatist is really the term there, about helping out these poor people. One of the very first scenes we have with him is when he's walking down this road and he sees a man on a horse-drawn cart with a small dog tied to the axle. And he's like, "Whoa, hey man, what are you doing? What are you doing with this dog?" And he's like, "Oh, the dog's got to come with me." And he's like, "Well, why don't you have the dog ride in the carriage?" And he's like, "Dog's not going to ride in the carriage with me. It's a dog." And he's like, "Well, what if the dog gets run over by the wheels?" And he's like, "I don't really care. It's a dog."
Sucks. It basically sucks to suck.
And so he's like, "Listen, this is crazy. I'm going to buy the dog from you." And the guy's like, "I don't really care. It's a dog." and so Jorge buys this small dog from this random passerby. And as he is about to leave, we see another horse-drawn cart with the dog tied to the axle in the very same fashion, and Jorge just walks right by it. So I think there's a complication there, that he has a specific disdain for helping out poor people that does not extend to animals, for example. It's a little bit of sociopathy, I think, in his character. that he has a specific disdain for like humans who are in this position, but he will help out an animal even if he can't, buy every dog tied to a horse-drawn cart that he walks by on the road. I also
important to note that
go ahead.
His solution there is using his wealth,
money based.
Yeah, exactly.
To solve the issue. And this is where I like that scene a lot in what it says and in the thematics specifically for that character. But that never comes around again. The dog never shows up again. Like I was hoping for. I think a lot of these things. I'm like, I hope that these are going to build something. Maybe a little bit. I thought there may be a little bit more cohesion between a lot of these like little plot points that don't end up really happening.
Well, let's actually think about that vignette again, Tanner, because I think that's an interesting one to raise.
Okay.
Let's think about the other character, the guy who's selling the dog.
Right.
So we have, and to invoke the scene I was talking about earlier, at the end of the film, with Viridiana's second assault, we have two examples of characters who are impoverished and are willing to, who need money to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And in the case of this guy with the dog, pets in film is we relate very strongly to animals. And so we have this character who I think is very...
Speak for yourself.
Oh, look at that.
We have this character who is very dislikable because of his treatment of this dog.
Yes.
And so I like the complication of Jorge's character, but what do we make of then these impoverished characters who are going to do the immoral thing until they're paid to not, or are paid to get to just sort of make that situation go away?
Yeah, see, this is the thing I think is just Buñuel sort of alluding to, like, man's inherent greed, man's folly, etc., etc. I think that is kind of what it is. If you just asked me to take a first pass at that interaction,
I think there's another part of Jorge's character that we're not considering here, and that's that he's a womanizer. He is willing to pick up and drop women pretty quickly and without a whole lot of thought. He brings a girlfriend. She gets fed up being a housewife, hanging around, not being free and independent. She leaves, and then Jorge starts getting all sweet, a little bit first sweet with Viridiana in kind of like a coy way, but then he goes and gets majorly sweet with Rita in like a negging way, where he's like, if we fixed you up a little bit, you'd be pretty. Kind of.
Isn't it Ramona, by the way?
Is it Ramona or
Rita's
Rita?
daughter.
Okay. Oh yeah. Rita is the daughter.
Yeah.
Rita's the daughter who is definitely dubbed by a woman older than that child.
Certainly.
Every time she opened her mouth, I'm like, nope. That's not a child voice.
That's a 40-year-old woman.
So, but then what really gets me, and is a very interesting note to end on Buñuel's part, is when everything in the plot is said and done, and we have Viridiana coming back inside into the house, and Jorge is about to, hang out for a while with Ramona, get all sweet, and then Viridiana shows up, and he kind of like turns, and he kind of like immediately takes the affection that he was placing on Ramona, is seemingly, I don't know, is a compulsion, or just this is how he is. He's just seemingly never not trying to get a woman. And let's be real, we all know people in real life who are like this. He then immediately...
I got about 4 of them on this call.
Oh, brother.
Not pointing any fingers.
Oh, sure.
Just the way that he then switches and starts showing affection to Viridiana again, and this very complicated look on her face that is both pleading for it, the affection, and very afraid of what's going on. I am just like the way that colors Jorge's character to be he's disdain for the paupers, likes womanizing, wants to be fair to animals, but he's not going to buy every dog he sees. Very layered, multifaceted person.
I mean, also, if we were thinking about reasons why this film would have been transgressive and banned, there's a lot of just like incest in the movie.
Sure,
well, yeah.
And Jorge's first girlfriend, he's like, I don't need to be married to a woman to live with her.
Yeah.
True.
That's true.
That's trend.
And you know what? Jorge, he's wrong about a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But he's right about that.
You don't need to be married.
Uh-huh.
Well, I
So-
think it is important that we talk about the incestuous relationship that defines the first half of this movie.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that's kind of like the hook, right? Of like when you're watching this
Certainly.
movie and you come to realize that that Don Jaime is interested in Viridiana in a deeper way, and in even like proposes marriage to her, drugs her, all these things, almost certainly sexually assaults her, almost rapes her.
Mhm.
All of that is interesting. I don't. His character, I wish there was more of early on, because I feel like his suicide being a motivating factor, being like his final like triumph, getting one over on Viridiana is interesting, but like I don't really know how I feel about his character, the way that this is implemented into the story, because I do think it is an interesting plot point that makes this film feel transgressive, as you mentioned, and distinct. But the moment that really sticks with me is this whole sequence where he almost rapes her, doesn't go through with it, and then there's like this back and forth in the morning after where he's like, "I raped you, and now you're like worthless, and you can't go be a nun." And then he's like, "Oh, actually, oh, okay, I didn't. Like, can you go tell her? Like, I really actually didn't, and so that'll actually make her like me if I tell her that." So it's like, "Oh, it's actually not that bad." Like, there's this really weird. I think there's a really interesting sequence, but I'm not really sure what to make of it. It's just like kind of this
Riz
like
strategy.
back and forth. Yeah. He's like looping all the way around to try to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to the like isolated insanity in Jaime and in Jamie. That that he is like been driven to the point of being willing to do this by his loneliness, his isolation. I mean, he has his servants like Ramona and Moncho and a handful of others, but like it is almost like a Vertigo situation is kind of what we have for ourselves here.
Tanner, the amount of times I thought to myself, if I had a nickel for every time there was a movie that started in VIR that was about an older man trying to get a younger woman to look like someone that he used to have a relationship with.
That 2 nickels came out
I
year
have
part
2
2.
nickels.
But yeah, so that's that. I mean, it is Jaime like he's not behaving in any rational manner or anything, and there's almost like a Dracula sort of feeling about him, especially when he's like dragging around Viridiana's like body in this white dress, like through the empty halls of his manor or whatever, and like laying her out on the bed and undoing her blouse a little bit and like leaning into her chest, into the nape of her neck, and that's the point where he like sort of considers where he decides against like actually raping her. But then he says that he does to like dissuade her, and there's all this like interaction that Tucker already laid out that speaks to like his inability to connect socially with anybody, which I feel ultimately drives him and the act that he considered almost doing to killing himself.
This is why I'm so confused about this movie, to be honest. I'm still perplexed by it.
Okay.
There's a whole movie there. There's a whole movie in those 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the politics of what happens is so much more complicated even than the already very sort of exhaustive detail you just went into. Because there's the whole relationship of power between Jaime and what's the servant's name again?
Ramona?
Rosetta.
Ramona.
Not Rosetta.
I know, I'm sorry. There's 20 R names right now. So if you just take this first 30 minutes of the film, you have this power imbalance that is putting Ramona in a position where, for her and Rita's sake, she must go along with this plan to drug Viridiana. I think there's a lot to that. I think there's a lot to the religious and sexual politics of the plan that Jaime has. There's a lot to me that got me excited to see what the fallout of this was going to be over the next hour of the film. And where I'm still trying to suture the two halves together is at that point, because I feel like that really is a discrete portion of the film. If you think about on a plot level, the function of that really is only to get us familiar with this land and this house. So when Viridiana and Jorge then are in it, we're kind of already familiar with like that place and what that place means. But I just fail to see how we carry these ideas to the whole film. And I think part of it is that I don't know how I feel about the way that Viridiana is characterized, because this assault that she goes through is even more sort of insidious than the second, insofar as that she's drugged into her uncle. Like, there's a lot that you would anticipate would weigh on her character in some way, and I don't really see anything like that. And so I have a hard time really understanding why we needed that first portion of the film, or conversely, why the second portion of the film is so, in my view, disparate from the first.
So here's my question regarding that, because in my recollection of the film, I sort of have this disconnect where I'm like, so she doesn't go back to the convent because she believes that she is no longer a virgin. But I'm like, no, that's not true, because Jaime does tell her the truth, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yes.
and the physical
And then she
physical
leaves, and
evidence
they-
is there, and it seems like Ramona investigates for herself.
It's not there, yeah.
She goes back later to be like, well, what can I find?
That's a good point.
She, Buñuel shows us
And
that she
so-
finds nothing suspicious.
She was on the train. She was boarding the train or the bus to leave, and then the police inspector comes and
jalopy.
says, "Of course, she's getting on the jalopy." And then the police sort of intercept her and say, "Hey, you have to come back." And that's when
jalopy
she finds.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she stays because Jaime kills himself.
Well, and
she kinda feels it's
they use
her
the
duty
lines,
/ an opportunity.
they say those Gendarme guys go like, you can't leave. They don't say like, they forbid her movement. I'm trying to think about what her like agency is as a character. And after Don Jaime dies, she has a lot more agency and starts, taking steps in that are completely under her own control. Bringing all the paupers in and standing up for them, enforcing her worldview amongst them. That her like ability to just be choosing and performing. It's a lot. I don't exactly like know how it changes my like read of the whole situation, but I do notice that she gains a lot more agency, and I guess it doesn't really improve her ability to change the outcome of any situation at all. She can do a different thing. It's going to end up in the same way it would have if she did, what she.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of like defeatist perspective.
The film is very cruel to Viridiana as a character, because it paints her as this image of piety and of belief that must be torn down and destroyed for the purposes of the points that the movie is making.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why I agree very much with Abram that I think it's hard to feel the impact of this first act. Not that I don't then read a lot into Viridiana's performance specifically, and the way that she acts around people, and like these fleeting moments of kind of like fear of Jorge and these kind of things. I'm like, okay, that like this does track. Obviously, it happened, but we don't spend enough time with Viridiana. She's the titular character of the movie. She's the protagonist of the movie, the moral center of it. But I don't know a lot about her. I know that she's religious, and I know that she wants to do good. But to the point I made in my very opening statement, she ultimately kind of feels one note of that's really where the characterization stops. Of course, she has this like darker element to her now that she's experienced this trauma, and it would, it messes her up, and she's trying to push through that, and that is there. But because I don't know much more about her other than her interest is to be a good person and she is religious, I can't really get a sense of how this has truly impacted her life. And we end up spending so much time in that second half with either Jorge or the crew of homeless people that we've not really talked too much about, that she ends up feeling like a background character in that second half of the movie. And so I agree again with what Abram said of like, I don't really feel the impact of a moment that does set up an interesting shift for this character. And we don't really get too much of a chance to explore that because the movie's kind of on to zanier and zanier things and more people. Because also, like, there's a bunch of other servants and like workers are coming in and farmers and like there's like all this stuff going on, all these people.
Yeah. What do you guys make of this homeless crew that we build at the end of the film? I take away that Buñuel is very interested in showing like the strife that exists between them, and that while we may talk about importance of things like class solidarity, that isn't a natural state, and that isn't like the way that people start out, and that the petty differences and the different wants and the different needs of all the different people and the superstitions and prejudices all come out to these. I think maybe there's an argument to be made that Buñuel's taking a really wide sociological look at like what is going on with homelessness and poverty, and that like these people are not exactly like the normal people in the town, and they have issues, and some of them have been cast out because of one of the leper guy reveals that this is a sexually transmitted disease he's got. He got it from, he says, I had a lay with a nice woman, and then the next day it showed
On
up.
a windy day, it's important to remember.
Yes, the wind.
Day.
It must have been the
windy day.
wind.
Uh-huh.
And so there aren't like very many, I guess, outwardly or 100% stand-up characters of this homeless crew. There are some that like, I'm going to be taking a little bit of authority.
Yeah.
It's been placed on me, but then when push comes to
Ezekiel,
shove...
is that one guy's name? Who's
Don
sort of like
Ezekiel.
when Ezekiel, when Viridiana and Jorge leave,
Mhm.
she's kind of like, all right, Ezekiel, you're like kind of in charge while we're gone. Like you just make sure that nothing untoward goes down. And he's sort of the last holdout to go into the manor and have this feast. And
they're pretty
really
much
only it gives
immediately
him-
trying to do that
Yeah.
once the
Exactly.
people, the landowners leave. Like the
Mhm.
crew is all like, we found a way in, let's go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Abram, you were going to say something.
You can't really take this. You can't really take, and this is part of my problem with the film ultimately.
Sure.
Of like, it's not making a great case for helping out people who aren't fortunate, but it's not trying to. And so what I've been trying to wrestle with as we've been talking is like, okay, well then what function do they serve? And the point, Tucker, you made earlier that sort of has been ringing in my head is you made this point about Viridiana as like the moral center of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's maybe something to sort of her lack of presence as the film goes on, as she's sort of being swallowed up by this immoral group of people. Because I think that the film kind of goes to pretty great lengths, even with this character who's sort of left in charge, to make it clear that there's basically nobody here who has sort of a sense of personal responsibility or respect or anything, really. Yeah. And they sort of all kind of represent these very different and sort of discrete sins and problems that some steal, some are lustful, some are just very violent, some are very sloth-like. I don't really know how you use the biblical sloth in a sentence. But then there's sort of this interesting complication in the film too, in two places on this group of characters. One is with the leper when he finds the dove, which seems like quite a sympathetic moment, where he finds this animal that is little broken and is otherwise beautiful, but is kind of helpless and needs somebody to watch out for it. And I almost think for a minute, oh, okay, well, here's a character to feel sympathy for, because immediately people are fucking throwing bricks at him. So I'm like, okay, well, this is so then I'm clued into this character. Then at the dinner scene, he's pulling the fucking feathers out of his jacket. He killed it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about that. I'm like, okay, we almost have this empathetic character, but then we don't. And then we have the blind man and the deaf man, who together are they're going out and they're at one point
one
they're
of the guys
begging.
is deaf.
Am I wrong about that?
I think it's just a blind man.
I think
Is it-
I only know the blind guy.
There's a blind man, there's one other guy, then they go out and together in the past they were begging together. And the blind man hears jingling of coins in the pocket of the other guy that he knows they didn't get from begging. And he knows that were stolen from the church. And then he has this point, the blind guy, about how important it was to him to turn the other guy into the police. So they're like these interesting, like kind of moralizing or kind of empathetic moments for these characters that are kind of otherwise subsumed in this immoral soup.
Mhm.
So the more I like think through the characters, the less I'm really certain what function they're serving.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that we quote so obviously from this Da Vinci painting of the Last Supper, and who is it that's at the center of the painting? Well, it's the blind guy, who is also the lustful one, and
He's quite jealous, obviously.
he's
kinda-
very jealous. That's the main.
Even though he's at the center of the painting, he is definitely not a Christ-like figure in the film.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if I had anything
So,
more
yeah.
to make of that.
That's- I mean,
Observations.
I think generally that this everything can kind of be circled back around to like Buñuel's proclivities as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
That like the film has a moral center just to like degrade it and debase it, basically. The film has characters that are meant to like be awful and unlikable, except for fleeting moments for the point that Buñuel is attempting to make. And yeah, it has these moments of direct imagery because it's provocative, I suppose. So to take from that like what you will, and I still find Buñuel, since we already invoked him, Buñuel to be a better provocateur filmmaker than a Ruben Östlund.
Mhm.
Simply because I think he's a better director. Like I just think that the stories that he crafts and the images that he's able to arrange are more compelling than what Östlund is able to do.
And the subjects that he wants to consider, I think, are much more
Yeah.
interesting too.
They're a little bit more
Like
incisive.
subjects
Ruben
as in
Östlund,
people,
obviously
characters.
Yeah, pretty hard to get your movie banned. Well, I guess no. I was about to say, as a Western filmmaker, pretty hard to get your movie banned nowadays. I'll couch it in that.
Are you saying we should open up a studio in Afghanistan?
I mean, well, we will be presumably. Well, actually, we will be talking about it regardless. Jafar Panahi, the director of It Was Just an Accident, just received a year-long prison sentence in Iran for his films, his most recent film, and I guess generally his political activism and filmmaking.
But he's not in Iran right now, is he? That's if he comes back into the country, they'll put him in jail.
I would need to. I think from what I heard,
I can tell you another director who was arrested and then lived outside the country. If he came back,
yeah, but I think that's not for the
That's
movies that he made. I read that he was unable to leave Iran, but maybe that was just a quick like headline grab. I can look into this further, and we will look into this further when we discuss It Was Just an Accident.
Yes,
a very good film, I think.
We come in later. I kind of feel like we're wrapping up a little bit. Do you guys have any further thoughts?
I have something,
Tanner. Yes,
I have a trap card here. I have a trap card. I have
something serious to say.
An interpretation on the ending, which I find very gripping. In fact, probably my favorite part of the entire film is this sort of like last sequence where Viridiana is silently, sort of like almost in like a shell-shocked sort of mode, being drawn into the allure of Jorge's hedonism. That's the word. I really, really like this sequence, and I think there's something that I read that I have not seen covered or parroted or discussed anywhere else. So maybe I'm completely off base.
How often do you see something parroted?
I don't know.
Often on social media.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of Viridiana discourse going on right now. We're about 60 years too late for that.
in the scene with the leper that we keep discussing towards the very end, Jorge tells him that the money is hidden under the linens in this linen closet or whatever, and so you see him lift up the linen, search for it, grab the money, and he basically kills the guy and leaves. After that sequence, we get this sort of epilogue wherein it opens basically with Jorge asking where the towels are. And Ramona points to this very same cupboard that the leper was digging through, and Jorge like washes his hands or whatever with this towel. I'm like, we just saw that, so this has to mean something to me. So I'm like, is this like leprosy spreading to Jorge? And then immediately after that, Ramona, in like an act of lustful passion, like grabs his hand and is like biting it and licking it and like putting it all over her face or whatever.
They have that moment up in the attic previously, don't they?
Good point.
About the where they kind of like they kiss and it's.
And then someone throws a cat off the bed to imply that.
I kind of listen. That's a good moment of like Buñuel like image thematics where like. It pans over from them like laying down behind like a tarp or whatever to a cat just jumping on a mouse.
A rat,
like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good, Buñuel. I get you now. I get you. But just throughout this entire epilogue, there's a lot of focus to me on the things that like Jorge is like touching. There's a lot of focus on hands and things like that. So I'm like, is this meant to be Buñuel saying that like he is spreading like this horrible disease to these two women?
That's not really how I read it. I guess.
Okay.
I think what for that character is, it's about the paranoia. It's that, well, we don't say what the illness is. We don't know what the illness is. We have some ideas about it. We're more educated viewers than they probably would have been around STDs and similar type illnesses. And so I think that the purpose of it is to create in us, the viewer, the paranoia of like, we don't know what if it's being transmitted and to kind of put us in the same mindset, which is an accusatorial mindset, and one that I think, because as you talk about the moral center, that Viridiana pushes against the whole movie, being like, hey, like he's just sick, like he needs our help. And then Buñuel intentionally creates the opposite in our head, that he is evil, that he needs to be cast out, that it will transmit to all of us and kill all of us and poison our women and so forth. Because I think he wants us to be thinking very critically on whether that is like an appropriate mindset for a character like this. And I think ultimately it says no, that like he probably just is sick and needs treatment and help.
Okay. So for me, I bought into it as like, yeah, this guy probably does have this disease, whatever, leprosy, if we want to call it that.
I think it's syphilis.
Communicated through touch or whatever. And so for me, it spoke to the damnation of this ending that is like quite nihilistic, wherein she is just like giving herself over to the hedonism that's basically all wrapped up. He's like playing American rock and roll music, and they're playing cards, and the implication to me seems to be that he is trying to arrange some sort of threesome between himself and Viridiana and Ramona. Because there's this very weighty sexual innuendo.
Attention, Portland polycule, you have new opponents.
That's yes. What he says, I knew from the day I met you that I'd be shuffling the deck with you someday. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, but it's all in this very visually arresting sort of sequence where Buñuel is basically just like pulling the camera out and framing them in this single doorway,
smaller and smaller and smaller. I think that we can have it kind of both
to the
ways.
Damnation. Yeah,
I like that reading.
The song lyrics too are like they shake your cares away. It's sort of like a hedonistic. Almost like a devilish sort of ensorcelment of our characters. It's like, don't even care about anything, man. Just live the way you want to live. Very anti-pious way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was sleepwalking.
Well, she was in the beginning.
No, not in this one. Yeah,
but she could be.
But what? Mm-hmm. Right? Because the sleepwalking is a dimension of the film that I don't really understand.
That's like the surrealist dimension in my mind.
Right.
Sure.
But it's not that surreal.
when she sleepwalks the first time, she
Mm-hmm.
goes. We have Jaime like trying on her shoes and her corset and everything.
Yeah,
And she comes through asleep with like her yarn and throws it into the fire, and then
Mhm.
gathers up a bunch of ash and dumps it onto his bed and then leaves wordlessly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just felt like she was. I felt like this what other than sleepwalking would be the justification for her behavior and performance in the epilogue of the film. It seems like she's
Second
sleepwalking. again.
assault.
Yeah,
like
I kind of like
it
it.
fried her. Like she's given up.
No,
Because
that's what I kind of read.
that's exactly how I read it. Is like
Mhm.
she's given up after the amount of work that she put in to take care of these people and to give them food and clothing and a home and like all this stuff, and to see them turn against her in an aggressive way. I think it's completely like demoralized her, like destabilized her. She has no sense of direction or purpose anymore, and so her brain is just like completely fried.
Yeah,
I
it could
think-
be.
I like this
Could be.
idea. I like it. I like that it's all of these things. That they're all there together, and that Buñuel is like he's thrown this.
Let me call up old Louis.
Yeah, it's all spaghetti that has been thrown at the wall. It has all stuck, but it might be from a different recipe each. Like who's to say? Okay, yeah, we're put in this mindset where we're accusing this guy when we shouldn't really be accusing this guy. But then also, she is in this like sleepwalking fugue to go and be with him, and then. I'm struggling now to loop Tanner's point in, but like these three aspects, I think can they don't coexist, but they all can Schrodinger's cat exist simultaneously until we observe, maybe once again, what's going on or not. And that just
Yeah.
I don't know, that fits into my preconceived notion of Buñuel as a filmmaker. It's like, okay, let's just let's allow it to be a little cloudy, a little misty. We know the things that it's saying, but we don't quite get to put them all together. But they're all there. I don't know. I have room for that in my interpretation.
I also just think that Tanner's sort of interest in the hedonism is justifiable insofar as like, to me the movement of the camera at the end, which I agree is quite arresting, is like very clearly trapping our characters in this house. This house is
Yes.
so large; they're becoming so small that we're losing them. And so, if you sort of take this as what was maybe once a house of God, or tried to be turned into a house of God, has now been turned into this temple where you can fuck your cousin after you've been playing war or whatever they're playing.
Gin
Like, I
rummy.
think that, yeah. I think there also is something that is maybe more sort of directly in conversation with the film's dismantling of this piety.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that this was not the original ending for this movie. Originally, it was literally just Viridiana like enters the room and we see the door close behind her and that's it. But the censor boards of the time fascists controlled Spain, dictatorially controlled Spain, did not didn't like that ending, thought it was too suggestive, I guess, and so instead we get this ending, which I think is arguably far more suggestive and far more like nihilistic.
Leave it to
Shout out to art,
yeah.
Shout out to artists.
Shout out to
No, art finds a way.
LB. Putting in a much more a richer ending.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Dang.
Put in a
I mean,
rich score.
We could.
Yeah,
We've alluded to it already, but like this film was like called blasphemous by the Vatican or whatever, and it was banned in Spain for it came out and it premiered in '61 for like over a decade until after the dictator of Spain died, and it was released.
Franco.
Yes, exactly. I've seen conflicting reports about like how this film was disseminated out of Spain. That like the boring story is that like they had sent it already overseas for like post-production work, and so there were just copies of it overseas. But the non-boring answer is that Silvia Pinal, the actress of Viridiana, smuggled a copy of it out of the country and flew to Mexico or whatever, and that's how it like sort of escaped the censor boards, because they ordered all copies of it to be burned.
Yeah,
the Spanish government.
Of course. I would order the same thing, actually.
Oh, well, Jesus, okay. Well, I think...
Hey, Mo.
Hello, I'm me at the censorship drive-through.
All right. Well, I'll quickly do some palm details here too.
I'd like one burn every copy of Viridiana, please.
What am I going to
actually-
give it? What kind of score? Tanner, give us the
hang on.
details while you also, or while we.
What kind of cookies that, Abram?
Pepperidge Farm Brussels mint.
Ooh, I remember.
Oh. Tucker remembers.
Well, Pepperidge
Yeah,
Farm
yeah,
remembers,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember Pepperidge Farm.
Okay, so I got some palm details here. I just had to look up some people that I have put in here. The jury presidents. There were 2 of them this year. But folks, we know these guys. Come on. Like, do I even have
We
to
know
say
them. We love them.
Jean Giono of France and Sergei Yukovich from the Soviet Union.
Let's go,
Come on,
Sergey.
guys. Hello. Also serving on the jury this year, a name that we do recognize, Fred Zinnemann, American director.
Friend of the
Fred
show.
Zinnemann.
Fred,
the show.
Friend of the show.
Zen? Someone say Zen?
Zinnemann, who's the director of Cimarron, correct?
And From
Yes,
Here to
correct.
Eternity.
From Here to
Correct.
Eternity, yeah.
They should. That's
And
what
did
they
he
should
do-
just rename the Zin flavor. They should just call it Zinnemann flavor.
Did he do that one about the French guy? And it's like there's a
The
trial.
life
What's
of
that movie
Emile
called?
Zola.
So, yeah, did he do that
no,
one too?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
No,
well.
that was the same director. I think it was Willem Dieterle. The
Oh yeah, it
director
is.
is,
Emile Zola is
oh, sure.
Dieterle.
Beanie and the Bounty?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Tanner. What the hell?
Sorry. This film did split the Palme d'Or with The Long Absence, which maybe we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
So of the 27 other films in competition, if I'm doing my math correctly, notable submissions were A Raisin in the Sun from Daniel Petrie, and Two Women from Vittorio De Sica.
That's so many women.
It's true.
It's not that many.
Not enough, in
I've
my
seen more
opinion.
in one room.
Jorge would be very pleased with
Can't
that
relate.
number of women, I would say.
Jorge would be very happy.
Alrighty, let's give it a score. Hang on, let me plug it in.
Tanner, punch your number in. I had to think
There we
about
go.
mine for a moment. Are you guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Deepa 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 deep beep dee. Here come the scores. The scores are coming, and here they
Big
are.
win for me. The score that I put is the score that the movie got. The average score, 6 point.
Big win for me.
Big win for me. 6.8 is the average. The point breakdown. Tucker gave it a 6.3. Abram gave it a 6.5. I gave it a 6.8. And Tanner gave it a 7.6. So 6.8, no ties. Simple math. We are just going to slot this one right in. It goes right below A Man and a Woman for spot number 38 on our list. Man and a Woman, Viridiana, and then The Tin Drum.
The Tin Drum.
The Tin Drum, one of our strangely most successful videos.
Yes,
I
certainly.
think about the tin drum quite often. I bet that's one of the Quest films that stuck in my head the most from this show.
Maybe because
Oh,
it's
you
just
wanna-
so strange.
You want to
Yeah.
revise your score on it? Bump it up to a 9 or a 10, maybe?
Yeah. Let's change that to a 10. Let's just
Okay, let's
start
just
changing
see,
numbers.
yeah,
let's
yeah,
just
yeah.
start
Drop a
picking.
10 on that, baby.
Yeah.
You one of these days you're gonna wake
We
up
did
and
that on the last quest. Halfway through, it's like,
we, did
fuck it.
we did the great re-rank.
but that our
yeah.
system changed. We changed from
Yeah,
that's true. That
first
it
past the post to
required.
ranked choice voting, and so we just had to redo
Mhm.
the election.
Yeah.
There you have it, Viridiana.
Well, folks,
Spot number 38. There you have it.
howdy doody.
Wow.
Howdy doody. Let's go talk to the wheel. How's about?
Okay, let's do it.
That's the sound of the fade.
The wheel. That's the sound of the police.
Whoop, whoop. Wheel, wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on real? Wheel, wheel, what's your deal?
Wheel's deal is looking like number 24. Number 24.
24. Okay, that'll be just on the other side, just on the half.
Oh, what do we have? What do we have?
Oh, boys, we got ourselves a real humdinger this time around.
Really? A humdinger?
A humdinger.
Sweet.
That's
Yeah.
what I want for
One of-
Christmas.
One of film Twitter's most beloved films from the year 1984. This
Rain
is
Man?
a film that stars Hunter Carson, Dean Stockwell, Natasha Kinski, and Harry Dean Stanton. coming to us from the country of. Hang on, I should check this out. It's numerous countries, but the official submission for the Cannes Film Festival was. What the fuck is that? WG. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh, Germany, West Germany, West Germany,
West Germany,
West Germany, and
Water
France. From director Wim Wenders. This is Paris, Texas.
Yes.
For sure, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Whoa.
Have you guys been to Paris, Texas?
I've never been, and I've never seen this film. And I've been very excited to. I picked up a 4Criterion 4K just for the purposes of this show.
Yeah, I am very excited. I have been to Paris, Texas twice in my life. I've never seen the movie. The famous thing about Paris, Texas, and I'm sure I will repeat this 4 or 5 times in the episode, is that they have an Eiffel Tower statue there, right? And unlike everything else in Texas, you know how the saying goes, everything is bigger. The Paris, Texas Eiffel Tower is approximately 1.5 times larger than your average jungle gym built in from like 1945 to 1960.
You know what a great flex would be that I don't think any country has ever done?
Build a bigger Eiffel Tower.
Build a bigger version. Not just the Eiffel Tower of any of the iconic like landmarks of any country.
Bigger,
just build the same but bigger.
China's like bigger Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Just
With
all
a
the same
larger
guys.
Lincoln face
they don't
on
put like famous Chinese historical figures on there.
It's got
They just
Teddy.
Jefferson, Washington, Roosevelt. Yeah, Lincoln.
I got an even better one.
Yeah.
We buy a plot of land in Washington D.C. and we build a taller Lincoln Memorial.
Lincoln Memorial.
And so like people just like look at the Lincoln
The
Memorial.
Washington Memorial is the one
Washington
that's the
Monument,
obelisk.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, my bad.
We can make a taller
We can
Lincoln
make a taller
Memorial too.
Lincoln.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'll just like scale it up so he's like skinny. And tall.
But we do it, so it would be a private enterprise.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so
A
like when people
ticketed
look at
event,
the
too.
skyline and they see the Washington Monument and they see the other Washington Monument that's even better. And it draws their attention. They're like, oh, I should go there.
Anyway.
Yes.
Paris,
And then
Texas.
we sell
Paris,
lemonade.
Texas. Paris, Texas. Looking forward to this one. Oh yeah. It's gonna take me home too. Gonna be reminded
True.
of that state.
Do you think there are taxes on like Minute Maid's lemonade because like you can't tax like a lemonade stand? So
Yes.
you think all lemonade is exempt?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I do.
What the
I
fuck
do.
are
I
you
do
talking
believe the chartered corporation that owns Minute Maid pays taxes.
Actually, Timo, I'm sure they don't.
I'm sure they
somehow.
skate because of. Yeah, true. I know where to put my money. Let's wrap it. Let's get out of here. Paris, Texas next time. Thanks for talking about Viridiana. We're going to bounce from one auteur to another. Vim,
Yes.
we're coming. And you can't stop us. That's all. That's all I've got
W's
to
in the
say.
chat. Hashtag W's in the chat. Let's get some
WWW.
W's going,
In the
folks.
chat.
Vim, vim, vam, boom.
Oh, wait, I have to date this video with a TikTok meme.
Yay!
Madam Morrible, Mim members, flip it around. Vim vendors,
Wadham Warrable.
Wadham Warrible.
Oh, God. If I don't leave us now, we're going to go insane. So stay cool.
Mhm.
We'll see you next time. Stay cool, keep warm. Peace.
What the fuck
What
was
the
that?
fuck is that joke?
Tanner?
What the fuck is that joke? I don't even understand.
You guys haven't seen the
No.
I was thinking during this one, how many characters have we ran into in this series that the honorific or the title is Don? We got
many.
We got Don Jamie.
true.
We got Don Chicho. We got Don.
Okay.
There's two Dons in this one. There's Don Jamie and Don Jorge.
No, there's like 4.
They call everyone Don.
Yeah, like half of the homeless guys are Don Blank.
Oh wait, I thought Don was like a
Patriarchal male type.
Yeah, it is, but I
maybe
think they're doing that in like a gassing each other up like kind of way.
I see. Yeah.
But
Like-
also this
like-
is Spanish and the other one's Italian. There's got to be some difference.
What do
What
you mean?
about the mobsters?
They're
in
both romance
Godfather?
languages. Maybe they fucking both-
What do they call Marlon Brando in Godfather?
Don Corleone.
Yeah.
They don't call what's his name.
Well,
Well, his name's not. I guess it's fair point. His
You're
name's not
Donald
Don.
Corleone.
Yeah,
Don-
his name is
Donald
Don
Donald Ciccio.
Don Vito Corleone.
mhm.
Good old Donald Ciccio.